Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter. Insert cowbell there.
Yeah, that was a sad cow. Which one?
Hey, give me a break. I tried. Come on.
You did. It was A for effort.
Can I have a redo?
Yeah, okay, sure. Sure, you want to, yeah, let's, you want me to set you up or are you just going to do it?
Or should I just?
No, I'll set you up. Here we go. Or Steve, you set her up. You do the banter.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Banter. Oh,
okay,
good solid
better.
Strike there. Yeah.
That was better. Yeah, that was hard. That was,
there we go.
Felt the vibrations here.
You know what? See, the first one was heart. That one had soul. There you go.
That's right. Perfect. Hey, this is, of course, the podcast where we talk with advocates and members of the disability community to educate and inspire better conversation about disability. Hey, my name's Rob Minot, and joining me today, Mr. Steve Barkley.
I'm back, baby.
And Miss Liz Malone.
Hey, I never left.
You're always here.
Yeah.
How the heck are you folks?
Aside from being the cat that you fed once and won't leave, great.
Sure, I have a few of those in my life. Yeah. Well, and what about you, Steve? You're fresh back from vacation. You were camping. How'd that go?
Went well. We only got rained on a little, so that's an improvement over years past. And we had the whole family out. So there were 7 of us out in Golden Ears Provincial Park for a week, fending for ourselves in the wilds.
Nice. Yeah, I guess it's been a bit of a cooler July here in Vancouver in the Lower Mainland. So what was it like? Were you guys chilly?
No, not chilly. It was nice and cool at night, and it was warm during the day. We had a couple of cool days when it was overcast, but no, it was perfect camping weather.
Sounds ideal.
Yeah. And kind of funny story about that. We up in the provincial park, there were bear warnings all over the place saying, make sure your food's put away because, there was a bear spotted here. And we've always been very bear conscious when we've been out camping, so we weren't worried about it. But we went through the entire camp. The only wildlife we saw when we were driving into town, as soon as we got out of the park, we saw deer, but nothing in the park. The only wildlife we saw in the park were like squirrels. And then driving home, Jackie goes to drop her brother off at his house. There's 4 bears out beside his house. And then we went to drop off the van that we rented, and driving home, we go past another bear walking into the parkade of one of our neighbors' places. So there's more wildlife in Burnaby than in a provincial park, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard that. Actually, I was talking to somebody the other day that was talking about like a bear had wandered into the complex. The townhouse complex that they're at. So yeah, it seems to be happening more and more these days.
Yeah.
So like here in the US, all we get are raccoons. There's a lot of raccoons.
Well, I feel like now anytime we turn on the TV here, it's like animals are just deciding to kick ass and take names. All of them hearing is like alligator ate this person, bit this one arm, shark attacks, bear attacks. I mean, I can't tell if it's that animal attacks are on the rise, or we just have so much more capabilities of having things documented because of phones and security cameras. But it just, I'm like so afraid to be out in nature.
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's just coverage.
Well,
yeah, but still
it's scaring
terrifying.
the crap out of me.
Yeah, no doubt. Because you're walking along the street and there's a bear. Like all my bear survival instincts that I developed as a kid growing up in the northern interior have all gone now. I have no idea what to do if faced with a bear. Like, because I know one you're supposed to run, one you're not. Do you play dead? Do you find a tree? Then where are you going to find a tree in the city? Like it's bad all around.
It's 2 words: bear spray. Learn it, live it, carry it. That's it.
Well, you know how they tell you should deal with the different types of bears, right? Like black bears, they're smaller, You can tell when they're around because their scat has little seeds and small bones in it. Nothing too big, and you can carry bear spray and wear a bell. If you're in brown bear territory, the scat's a little larger, got larger materials in it, and again you can use bear spray and wear a bell. And if you're in grizzly territory, you can tell the scat because it smells like pepper and has bells in it.
Well, I don't normally look for that while I'm being mauled, but I'm gonna keep that in mind. That's really good advice, Steve.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks.
Yeah.
yeah.
You never know what you're going to learn when you tune into AT Banter. That's all I've said.
Indeed. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
There you go. All right. Well, enough of that, because I am excited to get to today's guest. So, Steve, could you do the honors and could you tell me just what the heck we're doing today?
Yes, indeed. Our guest today has spent decades turning his own experience with vision loss into a mission to help others. At 19 years old, he was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease and lost his central vision, a diagnosis that forced him to drop out of college and give up driving. But he didn't stop there. With the help of video magnification technology, he went back. He finished his degree and built a career that's made him one of the most recognized names in low vision services. For years, he led rehabilitation services at the Chicago Lighthouse, running their Assistive Technology Center and Tools for Living store, helping thousands of clients find the right tools to reach their maximum potential. He also was who introduced me to Iris Vision, one of the first virtual reality-based headset magnification systems. Please welcome a true pioneer in low vision technology and advocacy, Tom Perski.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. And good to be with you, Rob and Liz. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Yeah, well, listen, we are really excited too, because, we're of course big assistive technology geeks here on the show. And Steve and I have worked in the industry for a long time. And so it's always sort of a special pleasure to be able to talk to somebody who's been in the industry probably longer than either of us. But maybe where we can start is telling the audience a little bit about your own personal vision journey and how sort of that all played out.
Right. As Steve mentioned, I was diagnosed at 19 playing American Legion baseball where the ball went up in the air, and I was playing center field, and I saw it come off the bat and it went up in the air and went into some black hole somewhere. I missed the ball and was totally embarrassed, and came in and I told my coach I wasn't seeing the ball correctly. And mom and dad wore glasses, so it was to the family eye doctor, and he saw something in the back of my eye that he said needs further investigation. And I was fortunate enough to be sent to the University of Chicago, is where I'm from originally. And one of the top doctors in inherited retina diseases, Dr. Alex Krill, he knew what it was right away. He was kind of the world expert and wrote books for ophthalmologists on the subject, and told me that, my vision at that time was like 20/40. So I was, doing everything pretty much normally, but that was the cause of my first inkling that something was wrong. And he said, it's going to get worse. You're going to lose the center part of your vision, become what they call legally blind, which I had no idea. And I think I shut down at that point and decided not to listen. And my family had no background. And we all thought, I'm just going to go along and do the best I can. But he was right. Over the next year, I had lost enough vision to be kind of in the 20/60 range. And so that starts to be problems in reading. And I was in college and also an art major. So I just made my paintings. My professors would tease me, every time you come in with a new painting, it's larger than the one you had last semester. And it was just my way of trying to cope. And really not tell people too much. I was too caught off guard. I didn't want to face it myself, let alone, talk to others about it. So that was the beginning of my journey. And by my junior year, I could no longer read, and I did drop out of school. And then the uncertainty, I think, of where do you go from here? What kind of job can I do? All of those feelings, moving back home and being depressed and more angry too, I think, to sort of cover over those deeper feelings. I'd rather be angry than super sad,
Right.
And that's kind of how I faced it for quite a while. So it took several years and years actually of coping and figuring out through the Department of Rehabilitation. They said, oh, we have special tests that we can maybe help you get back to college. And these tests, they brought me in and they said, you've done these personality profiles and we have the results. And I was like, okay. And I'm thinking these guys probably don't know what they're doing. And they said, well, we see that you could really be either a psychologist or a priest. I'm like, what? What is it? What is he talking about? I'm an artist. That was their findings. But they said, no, we're serious. We can pay for you to go back to school. And so at 26, I went back to college. And that year, okay, believe it or not, was one of the visual tech was one of the first CCTV video magnifiers. It had only been out, 2 years? So I always tell people mine was made out of stone. Had big stone knobs on the front, and the little guy would come out and chip away each letter, And that's
all stylishly presented in a wood tone box.
Yes, and my younger colleagues who've been around not quite as long as I had said theirs was like wood siding, like the station wagon we had as a family member, but mine was definitely stone. And but it saved my life. I talk about assistive technology and what it did for me way back when, to go to finish college and finish graduate school. I couldn't imagine where I'd be, and how that turned into a way that I wanted to help others to go through their journey, as I never had the help to go through my own.
What was there were there any kind of services back then?
There was low vision services in major cities, but I was never referred to them. And I did receive a thick pair of glasses where I had to hold the book about 5 inches, but that went in a drawer and never came out again. And so the services that I received was going back to school and buying my books and my tuition. But there was no vision services that I knew about, and I struggled for years. And besides, having to bring everything to the CCTV, and of course, trying to read and trying to cram for a test, and the room would start to go around, and I'd get dizzy, and I'd have to lay on the couch, and then the room was still spinning, and I'd have to lay with my head on the floor and hoping that the room would stop.
No.
Thinking, And so finally by graduate school, I had met a blind student at the university who told me, hey, didn't you know you can get your books on tape? And I thought, no, I don't know about that. And so we found out about, it's called Recordings for the Blind at that time. And I got my first 6 or 7 books. And I sat in my easy chair. I thought, this is going to be great. I don't have to sit up at this 12-inch black and white screen anymore. And within 10 minutes, I was fast asleep, and the book would keep playing, and then I'd wake up a half hour later and have to rewind the book. And the words they wouldn't go in,
Yeah.
I wanted to see the words. I was a visual artist. I wanted to see things, not hear them. And so my brain had to really do a lot of hard work to kind of reprogram itself, really, is what it did. But it took a long, long time, and it was hard. It was definitely hard. And the neat thing was when I did graduate and worked as a family therapist for a few years, and there was a big ophthalmology center outside of Chicago in Wheaton, Illinois. And this was a total, who was meant to be, was one of my interns that I was training had a family friend who was on the board of directors for a new low vision rehab center that was going to be sponsored by this the largest ophthalmology center in the Midwest. And they were looking for a counselor. And so they sort of knew who I was, but they didn't know my background. And so they asked me to come for a tour. And as I went through the center, and it was a beautiful new place with contrasting colors and special lighting. And it was like a home that had been made especially for people with low vision, but it was actually the clinic as well. And then when I walked into the doctor's office, I saw the eye chart. I said, "Oh yeah, this looks very familiar." And the woman, Dr. Mary, her name was, and she looked at me, she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Oh, you don't know I'm legally blind?" "You are? Oh, that's wonderful." I said, "Dr. Mary, no one's ever quite said it to me that way." "Well, you know what I mean. You're going to be able to relate to people who come in, and you've been through it yourself." And she didn't know. And I think she was kind of looking at me too. She just like, she didn't say it, but I knew she was saying, you really don't look blind, and that was pretty amazing. In my background, while I was in college or graduate school, I did attend 3 years in a row the blind ACB conferences and it was, there was no emphasis at all on low vision. It was not that people were all totally blind. Of course, they had all different levels of vision, but people were using canes and dogs, and it was a world that was just so frightening to me. I didn't understand it. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I always felt in the back of my mind that low vision is, more, the incidence of low vision is 3 times higher than those with totally blind. And so why isn't there a low vision conference? Why isn't there help specifically for us? And as I worked at that low vision center after several years and made contacts with all of us in Chicago and Illinois, the Department of Rehab, I insisted that we try to have a low vision conference. And the very first one was in 1991. And we had 800 people that came. And we had some of the top doctors in the country at that time who were pioneers in their own right. And that conference became the first in the United States ever on low vision. And 2 years later, we had over 1,000. And 2 years after that, we had 1,200. And 2 years after that, we had 1,500 people. So it became, the 90s became a time when I was recognized as somebody who was making an impact and making the low vision community, a real community for the first time.
Nice. It's hard to imagine back then because there is quite a sense of community now in the visually impaired and blindness community. That I think a lot of that is probably just being able to connect more readily.
You think about the early 90s, and baby boomers were in their 30s or 40s. Yeah. I mean, the incidence of macular degeneration especially was not talked about. People did not know what it was. if you can imagine that. And there was no injections. There was, hot cauterizing laser treatment and things like that for patients. But really, it was not very well known. And of course, when was it, about 2010, when people started turning 65 at like 10,000 people a day, and this macular disease being like, what, 1 in 5 over 70 now in developing countries all around the world. So that's, we're at a point in history where macular degeneration has never been as much as it is right now in the world. And that will probably change it as the baby boomers, die off and goes back to another kind of a different kind of a world. But right now it's really amazing. So for me to watch what happened in the technology world, especially, when all of our screens were giant television sets that weighed 35 pounds. And,
Yeah.
and flat screens didn't come in till early 2000s. And that changed everything, when the only thing was a large desktop CCTV. That was the only thing in the world for several decades,
Right.
until the small flat screens came along. And so it was fun. And when I later in my career, I worked at the senior vice president of the Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind, and we had a technology crew, 4 young guys that knew a lot more about the technical things than I did, but I brought a lot of the focus groups into helping different companies, and we just had a great time. I was on the committee they called it the Dream Team at Humanware, when we made the Prodigy software and some of the first products. I helped immensely on the products like the Explorer 5. Was me and Luis Philippe that did that. I used to call it the Explorer A5. I would tease them. I got involved right from the start with Rob Hilkes, and was helpful in developing the first eSight product, and wrote their first training manual for the company. And these were just a few samples of, for me, how I never charged anybody. I just wanted to be a part of making some of this technology available, and what I thought, as a person who's lived with it now for over 50 years, what it's like to help others, and to, like I was saying, to turn my life around. And we can do the same, never thinking someday I'm going to have smart glasses, or I'm going to be talking to Siri, or, that was just not even close to what I thought the world would be like for me.
Yeah, that was all science fiction.
It really was. It really was.
So sort of speaking to that, and this is where your story is so fascinating, because I feel like your lived experience really informs these different parts of your career. First, being involved in counseling, in rehab services, and then, the assistive technology part. The fact that you sort of, you lived the experience as well, must really gives you a really unique perspective. In your experience, like what parts of that lived experience were you sort of able to bring to the counseling when you were counseling other people who were sort of freshly diagnosed? And how important do you think that lived experience is for counselors that are sort of involved in helping people through that process?
Yeah, that has been extremely close to my heart in the work that I was trained to do. Actually, Dr. Mary she was a retired psychiatrist, so she said, let's meet every Tuesday morning. And she was guiding me. I was still in my early 30s, she met with me every Tuesday morning for 8 years. I mean, the kind of training that I had was just, it was incomprehensible, really. I was at the right place at the right time. And so not only did she help me through it, but she helped ingrain into my thinking how people respond. What stage are they in when you sit down to show somebody a piece of technology, to be able to assess, where are they? Are they, in that early stage where they're just not ready, and what do they need at that point? They need hope. They need the fact that something is out there that will help them, but they're going to push it away as fast as they can, and they might, I can count a million times in my career where somebody came back 6 or 9 months later and said, Tom, you showed me something last year. I'm ready now. I got my checkbook. I'm ready. It's like they just were at that point, And the other thing I think is that we never talked about, at least the doctors that I worked with and as a team, was the grief process, that you're losing something very, very near and dear to you, and losing your vision, losing the ability to, to drive your independence. It seems like you're losing, at those first several months or years. And people don't talk about, taking the time to grieve those losses. And that takes either counseling help with a grief counselor, or people that I used to just take myself to a local park and lay in the grass and look up at the stars and shed some tears. And I would do that quite often to try to say, I'm going to try to let go of what I thought my life was going to be like, and try to instill in myself that life can be, vision loss is difficult, but it doesn't mean your life is going to be totally difficult, And I think that's the message I always try to let people know, and help them understand that it's okay to cry. It's okay to get through the process as much as you can, because then you're going to be balanced, And when I was training my young staff on how to do a demo for CCTV, I'd say, slow down, go slow, pretend you have all day, because there's something going on inside of them that you don't know yet. And you're showing them what knobs do this and what colors come on the screen, and you're all excited about showing them. But, think about where they are,
Right.
And then if there's a family member sitting next to them, because of my family therapy background, I could see, I call them, are they butting in, the family member, trying to do everything for the person?
Right.
So I called them the Butt-Inskis. And the Butt-Inskis are always, and I would have to put my hand out like a referee. Just wait, so-and-so is going to do it on his own, And then we had I called them the Butt-Outskis, where we would go to do a demo, and the person, I'll wait in the car. I was like, no, you won't. You're going to be sitting right here, because we're going to be talking about things that are going to be helpful for you to be a coach, and you're going to, understand and be a part of this, because this person really needs you, So there was like all these dynamics going on around what we're trying to do to help the person see better.
It's so interesting. And I think that a lot of people outside the industry don't really realize just how personal assistive technology is. Just even from a variety of different things. Like, not only does one device help somebody in one way, but then it might help it in another. One device might work for one person. It's not going to work for somebody else, even if they have the same condition, because the acuity might be different. or their situation that they need it for could be different. So there's so many variables when somebody sits down to try a piece of AT, whether or not that is going to be the right piece of tech for them, including, and I didn't even think of this until you were just talking, including, again, what's going on with them in their journey, what they're ready for and what they're not ready for.
Yeah, it's so important. And if you get it, I always say if I had a chance, and I often do several weeks before somebody comes in, to say, write down everything that you can no longer do or that you're trying to do, but you're really frustrated, in the next 2 weeks. Maybe you'll have 30 or 40 things on your list, and a day or so before you come and see me, I want you to take that list of 40 things and prioritize it. I want to see what your top 10 is. And that's not only helpful to me in helping them, like you were saying, like what piece of technology is going to be best, but it's helping them think through instead of just thinking, oh, they're going to show me something to help me see better.
Right.
It's going to help them think through before they get there. What is my top 10? What is the things that I really want to be able to accomplish? And, our research for years always said that, 7 or 8 things out of 10 are very doable, within a short period of time with the right technology. Maybe driving's not there, but that's on everybody's list. But, but so many things that can be accomplished, and then helping them understand this is a process, and let's have some success. Certainly, let's practice everything that I show you. I want you to do 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, 10 or 15 minutes in the afternoon, and I want you to do it every day. Don't skip a day, because you and your eyes and your brain have never done this before. And especially if you're, elderly and maybe you're depressed or going through, struggles. So there's a lot going on inside the person, and they decide, oh, I'm not going to read for the weekend, and then I'll start back on Monday, and then they forget what the buttons do, and, all those sorts of things. So that was always my mantra, 2 or 3 times a day on short periods is better. And so you're not overwhelming, yourself, and then don't skip a day, just go on and try to do it. And it might be just about anything that we're helping people adapt to is can work for people.
I mean, it must be such a fascinating perspective too, because, literally going from a time when, like you were talking about, like CCTVs were like literally a boat anchor. To
I
now,
know a few models that I should have used as a boat anchor.
Yeah, I'll bet. But now, you can carry it under one arm, like a lot of these flat screens. But I mean, but that's just form factor. But do you find that these days more and more devices they're able to sort of roll multiple use cases into one device?
Yes.
Like, it seems to me that's one of the things that's really improved with assistive technology, where it's no longer you need this device for this task, you need another device for another task. How do you find that part of the industry has developed in the past few years?
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's a really amazing thing that's happened, is that, like you were mentioning, just 1 or 2 devices that can do not only, like the smart glasses, like the Ray-Bans or whatever. I'm working with, I'm volunteering as a low vision director in our small town. And so I see patients in their 80s as primarily that are using smart glasses. And not only can they read and know what time it is and what the weather is, but they're asking, what kind of macaroni and cheese can I make? And what, you have a special recipe? And I mean, things we just never, never dreamed of. And being able to translate in other languages when they travel, or to be able to read signs in French or Spanish, or
Right.
I mean, just things that go way beyond somebody's top 10 list, right?
Right.
And the smartphone, people, earlier in my career, I never saw anybody over 75 with a smartphone. I just never
Sure.
did. And now everybody has one. And so we developed an app we call Live Read. It's only in iOS. And my young colleague who I've been working with, he's getting all excited about low vision. He developed this app that just works really easily for those 85-year-olds that we see, that opens the app and it reads out loud to them. So by the time they leave their first appointment, they're able to read their mail, read their pill bottles, just with their own smartphone. And that's been really fun. And so, recently we had a really nice community event. I just over the last 3 years, I wrote what I felt was a memoir that I was trying to inspire people of the things that I went through and all the stories that we talked about earlier in my 20s, and how I made it into the low vision field, and how we developed the whole low vision conferences in the 90s. And so I titled it, "There's No Vision Like Low Vision," is the name of the book.
I love it.
And there's a foreword by an ophthalmologist colleague of mine, Dr. Byron Tabbitt. It's Initio Press, which is, I believe, in Edmonton. And these guys have been really super helpful in developing a neat book cover, and just a quality product. So I appreciate their help. And I told them I do watch Oilers games. And when, I grew up in Chicago, and it was the original six, and Saturday nights, all the games were on. And so I followed the Blackhawks, through their great times. And when Duncan Keith went to the Oilers, I decided I was going to watch them from now on. So that's my one of my connections to Canada, as well as Humanware, and I keep in touch with those guys. And my work with Eastside was fun.
Okay, so let's talk about the book a little bit. So what sort of prompted you to write the book?
Yes, I think it really was that I knew that macular degeneration, is affecting more and more people. And I really felt like, okay, yes, the age difference, of course, is huge when having it at 20 years old. But, you really can't stump me when you talk about what questions that you have. I've lived through it all. But I never really disclosed to people what is going on inside of, the interpersonal thoughts that I put in this book are pretty deep, actually. But I did that on purpose, because I wanted people to know that there is hope, that you do feel that like you're going through a journey by yourself a lot, and you're not sure you're going to come out the other end, and all the things that I went through. But it was certain people that I met, and my very first friend, Tony, who had low vision, it was a life-changing experience. And so I talk in the book about, having somebody that is going through it with you. And then I felt, as a counselor, I was trained in group therapy. And I said, like, there is no low vision support group in all of Chicago. Come on. And so in 1983, as I was still a graduate student, I decided, let's have a low vision. And so the local CCTV guy, he had been selling CCTVs probably 6 or 8 years. And he said, well, I'll just send an invitation to all of the customers that I've had over the years. And I thought, okay, we rented a room. And a good thing it was a very large room at the local library because 65 people came to the first meeting.
Nice.
Yeah. And we sat in a circle. We literally, it was a Sunday afternoon. We literally went around the circle and everybody told their story. And the tears were flowing and the Kleenex boxes were being passed, you know. And it was like, wow, then the need, you know, of what I at that time had been going through a little over 10 years. But now to be in a room full of other people. And so I became a really big believer in the whole self-help, you know, movement and helping people understand. And so all of those things I write about and how inspiring it could be, I think, for anyone, and no matter what their age.
Hey, podcast listeners. Steve, president and owner of Canadian Assistive Technology here again. While we love connecting with you online and over the phone, sometimes there's no substitute for seeing things in person. That's why we're so excited about our storefront at Unit 106, 828 West 8th Avenue in Vancouver. Coming to our showroom is a great way to explore many of the assistive technology solutions we offer. We're proud to say it's the largest assistive technology showroom in Western Canada. You can get a first-hand look at our extensive product line and speak directly with our team, who are happy to answer your questions and help direct you to the right solution. We always want to ensure the device you choose is the right fit for you. So if you're in the Vancouver area or planning a visit, we encourage you to drop by our storefront. It's a fantastic opportunity to see how Canadian Assistive Technology can help you meet your needs. We look forward to seeing you there. Again, the address is Unit 106, 828 West 8th Avenue in Vancouver. And now, back to the show.
So, you know, we've sort of covered a lot in terms of, you know, all of the things that have changed. I'm curious, though, about your perspective on where are we sort of at in terms of services and building out processes for people who are newly diagnosed? Because it seems to me, just even through this conversation, but also just in my own experience in my career, really the ideal situation for somebody who's newly diagnosed, there should be a bunch of different things going on that walks them through their journey. Because you're absolutely right. It can be very isolating for people.
Yes.
You know, we've heard stories again and again. So, you know, that might be, you know, that they should, you know, have some counseling when they're ready for it, whether that's grief counseling or whatever. But there should be also like some mentorship and then, you know, some training in terms of maybe it's rehabilitation, like daily living skills training, and then even assistive technology training. There should be a bunch of different things going on to really best service somebody who's newly diagnosed. Do you find that the system, and you know, and I'll just leave that in quotations, are we getting better in being able to provide these services to people, or is there still a long way to go in that sense?
Well, of course, I'm from the Stone Age, so it really was pretty brutal back then, and
Right.
And nobody was getting referred, and nobody knew the word low vision wasn't really in anybody's language, and either was macular degeneration. If you ask somebody, no one ever heard of it. And I know it's hard if you're a young person to believe that's what the world was like, but it really was. And I remember starting to attend the ophthalmology and the optometry conferences, and I was asked to be a speaker early on. And I remember the story that started being passed along where some man had a prosthetic leg. He was referred to an orthopedic guy and had lost his leg due to diabetes, and it worked out really good. But then when he lost his vision, he did not get a referral to any services, and he ended up suing the doctor, saying, "Look, you know, I was referred for my disability with my leg and never referred for my eyes." And I don't know if that was an actual case or somebody made that up, but it went to, I think, every eye doctor in the country. And I thought, oh, finally, this is going to make a difference. But it really didn't. It just got better so slowly that it was pathetic. It really was pathetic. And I think we still have a long way to go. Of course, it's much better now. And I believe people, well, of course, the internet was a huge jump, because I'm talking about days before social media at
Sure.
all, or Facebook groups and all the things that people can get plugged in. But I don't think there's that might be the way that people find out still. I don't think it's through their ophthalmologist. Or I remember when the American Academy of Ophthalmology, that was about 7 or 8 years ago, they put out a video. The chairman of the academy put out a video saying that low vision services was really the best practices for any ophthalmologist, and it went, that little DVD or whatever went to every ophthalmologist in America, I know, and maybe beyond. And did it change? I talk to doctors all the time, and they never watched it. So I have a feeling it's just not anywhere near what it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with Tom on that, and because here in the States, and probably me being from New York and then Tom being from Chicago, we definitely had the benefit of being in well-populated city centers, but it always comes down to where you live, at least in the United States. And you're supposed to get referred to the state, and then you just have to cross your fingers that you get your file lands on the desk of a really good caseworker, and that's always what it seems to come down to here. So it's definitely not a perfect system, and
Yeah.
the experiences are vary wildly from case by case, and circumstance by circumstance, because there's no true across the board expectation. I mean, there's requirements that are kind of generalized, and each state might have a slightly different interpretation of what immediate services actually mean. So yeah, I feel like on that respect, because of that, it can be the wild, wild west in terms of getting services still.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that the services are great in larger cities, and cities that have like optometry schools where they're training doctors in low vision, and there's a lot going on, and it's really, really great. But in so many areas, not so much, and so it can vary quite a bit, I think. And and then even though someone might go to a low vision center, they might be referred and get maybe the proper glasses and magnifiers and so forth. It's different, every service level is different, where they don't have counselors. They don't necessarily, for sure, they don't have an orientation and a mobility teacher. They might not have a daily living skills teacher. And so people don't know that that's available, or there are people that are trained and very good at those services. And so how do you find those kind of services?
Yeah.
So I think that's another aspect that, that's difficult for people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very much the same here in Canada as well. And maybe even worse, because, really we have one big organization that's a national organization, of course, CNIB.
Right.
And then maybe, province by province, you might have, some smaller organizations, or you have some blindness advocacy organizations here and there. But really, in terms of service-based organizations, we just got the one. And when you have a single point of failure that has limited resources, yeah, a lot of people aren't necessarily getting the services that they need. But I think the other problem is that even when you do have multiple organizations, they're not necessarily talking to each other. There doesn't seem to be sort of any, a network where, one organization is feeding somebody, and providing service to one person and passing them off to another organization to help with something else. It can be very complicated. And then, of course, it's complicated as well because depending on who you are and how old you are, maybe your needs are going to be different from somebody else. So I get that it's very complicated and the resources are limited, but I feel like I would agree with both of you as well. I think we do have a real long way to go in terms of really being able to map out a really impactful service plan for anybody who's newly diagnosed. It's a lot of the Wild West here too.
And those years ago, I know that they did surveys and did quite a bit of research in finding what percentage of people actually access services. And it was very low. It was like 30% of all people who are vision impaired access services, and 70% actually don't. And I hope it's better now. That's 10 or 15 years old data, but that's how it has been, and the difficulties of, well, back then I remember every organization, it seemed, in the States was Chicago Lighthouse for the Blind, or the Association for the Blind in New York. Everything was for the blind. And people, as we got into the baby boomers or whatever, they're not blind. Why would I go to an organization for the blind? I mean, that was a big deal back then. Mm-hmm. And people started changing their names, and that was a big thing too.
Yeah. And, and we still fight that battle. I feel like, that is still a really giant misconception that's out there, is that people really don't understand that blindness is a spectrum right. In terms of the general public. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And the approaches of, two organizations here, NFB and ACB, they see the world completely differently. And that's confusing for consumers too.
Yeah.
And the approaches of helping and rehabilitating persons and so forth is like completely, like the Democrats and the Republicans almost.
Yeah, that's right.
And that could be, that could be a hindrance not only to persons and families, but getting legislation or getting things passed that need to be passed, to say you guys need to agree on getting things done the same. If you don't agree, why should we help?
Yeah, that's right.
But I won't go any farther in that aspect of things.
Oh, I know. Like, honestly, like literally, I feel like we could talk to you for like 3 days and we wouldn't cover everything that we could talk about. So Tom, actually, one more thing about the book. So I guess I just want to put this out to the audience. Get the book for sure. But who's the book for, and what's sort of the underlying message that you'd like that you hope that the book will give people?
Well, that's a great question. And the book really, we talk about low vision, and that's part of the story. My story, of course, is a memoir. But when you start reading it, to me, I think the message I wanted to give to anybody going through any struggle at all is that there is a process behind what you're going through, and to believe in, understand that process, and use that to go step by step and hopefully inspire and give hope to any situation in life, And of course, it's easier when you're vision impaired, you're reading a book about vision loss, but there's so many books that have been written about, grief and loss and losing a spouse. I mean, all the major things that happen in life, And so that was my goal, was really to try to let people know that there's a process. There's you can grieve the loss and you can go on and that allowed me to accomplish way more than I ever believed I could. And so I didn't write I didn't write any of my great accomplishments of my 40s, 50s, and 60s, because that really wasn't the story. The story was more, okay, how do you go through? How do you grieve? How do you bring life into balance and then go on and do the things your life changes and you can go on and do the things you want to be able to do. So I hope it's helpful not only to young people for sure, but even those who are older who are losing vision, that there can be a life that's inspiring and you can do many, many things. You can travel the world. You can do things that you never thought you could when you're going through the loss. And you believe that, in some ways life is over. And that's not true. It's just not true. Yeah.
So that's an excellent segue. The name of the book, of course, is There's No Vision Like Low Vision. You can find it on Amazon, wherever you buy books. We'll include a link in the show notes, of course.
And for those who use like Kindle, it's available on Kindle.
Okay.
So if you put it on like the Kindle app, on your iPhone or whatever, and then let the smartphone read it out loud to you. So that's, a good way right now because it's not an audiobook format yet. So
thank you so much for taking some time out and chatting with us. Anything else that you want to plug, where people can find you or what you're up to these days? Anything at all?
Sure. You can reach me at tom@macularjourney.com is a little website that I have about Stargardts as well as age-related macular disease, or I, answer all of my emails every day, and it's been great. Just being able to 1 or 2 times a day just hopefully inspire people. So feel free to write me. Thank you all. Thank you, Steve. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Liz. Bye. Bye.
Yeah, I feel like we could do an entire show segment with him just on that grieving process he talked about.
Yeah.
For people losing their vision.
I agree.
Yeah, that part really resonated with me because I see it all the time here. I see people coming in and they're in tears. They've just come from a bad diagnosis and, they've been told, okay, well, there's a guy down there who can give you stuff that'll help. And they're wrecked. They're looking at a major life change and they're just starting that journey. And like you said, they might not do anything to begin with. They might reject everything to start, but they come back.
Yeah, it really does. Assistive technology is such a complicated field just because of that. And, I didn't even think of sort of the emotional component, but, you guys are absolutely right. Like I can see that really factoring in as well. When somebody's sitting down trying to look at a piece of AT and they're completely overwhelmed like that, I mean, it must be really a really challenging headspace to be in. But that's why his perspective, is so fascinating because, he lived it and then he went and he's doing it. And so, being able to talk to somebody like that, that absolutely knows, the questions to ask, or even can really empathize with the type of feelings that somebody's having when they're sitting down and sort of looking at a piece of AT or coming in for some counseling. It's just invaluable.
That kind of lived experience is something that should be shared.
Yeah, well, it's interesting at Blind Beginnings. There's been a lot of conversation around the counseling component because we do some counseling stuff too. Sean, our ED, Lee is a counselor as well, and she of course lives with RP, so she has that lived experience. And I really feel like that's a really interesting conversation to me about how important when you're sitting down and you're doing counseling for somebody who is going through that, how important having that lived experience is, and how key it is. Because I don't know that there are that many, counselors with that lived experience out there. And I think that is maybe a field that, could really use some, some people entering into it.
Well, the other issue about counseling is that it is definitely limited in terms of availability with actual licensed counselors, at least in my experience, with the lived experience. So much of it ends up being peer counseling.
You,
And I guess is like the next best thing. But then the layer that sometimes people forget about when you're talking about the counseling experience or the peer counseling experience is that even if you have the lived experience, there are always these additional barriers that individual people have to go through, and what one person's lived experience will be may not be the same as the other based on socioeconomic issues, family support issues, access to education, access to technology, access, to all those other things. So, I mean, it is absolutely important to have that, for sure, to have that insight. But then sometimes people forget like that there's that whole other huge component to it that can make two people's same air quote lived experience completely night and day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, it's very true.
And because I've actually experienced that myself, but I tell you though, a good licensed low vision lived experience counselor, they are like worth their weight in gold.
100%.
Sure.
I think that really the key is having a bunch of different services open to you, like that includes counseling and mentorship, because they're both important, but they're very different in terms of what the needs that they're filling.
Yeah, I had been pushed into, well, when I say push, like I should say gently nudged to, like, oh, why don't you participate in some more of the like social events and you can meet more blind people or something like that. And I'm like, well, that's like saying like, hey, you should go here and just hang out with white people, or you should hang out with here because they're all right-handed or whatever. It's like, well, there gets to a point where you're like, okay, it's great to have people in your network, but I'm like, okay, hey, anyone else not wear the same color socks today? I don't know. Like, so sometimes it's like, you know that the intention is good, but sometimes just integration without feeling segregated is a really important thing, and developing those relationships as opposed to, so I feel like there's so many different extremes in all this. And I think it really comes down to, it's like kind of like you were saying, Rob, it's like, you got to have like a, like kind of a good sort of selection of varying available resources, so that you don't have just one resource that you're limited to and one point of exposure, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the problem that we face here. Like, with one national blindness organization, it can't do everything.
Right.
It just can't. It doesn't have the resources, and honestly, it shouldn't. I don't think that one organization should try to do everything. I mean, I think that there's plenty of room for different parts of this journey and the support that somebody might need. Yeah, but it's very complicated. But that's why, man, we need 12 more Toms. To be honest, like we need to download his consciousness into an AI, because
we're gonna upload him.
Yeah, because honestly, like that lived experience and that set of experience and perspective on what's happened over the last 40 years is just invaluable. So I'd recommend it for sure. Anybody go out, buy the book. Especially if if you or somebody is newly diagnosed, definitely get the book. But we should get the book too.
I've already ordered it.
Have you?
I love that title.
Yep.
That title is golden.
I know, right?
That's great.
It is amazing. Well, anything else to say about anything before we wrap this puppy up?
Oh no, I think that's about covers it.
All right. Well, hey,
Hey, Rob.
Where can people find us?
They can find it at atbanter.com.
That's right. That is right, holder of the cowbell. So that means that you are now the official cowbell person.
I can be the cowgirl.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Wait,
you
wait,
have to.
wait. I'm a Giants fan. I can't ever say that. That was, oh God, like I'm disgusted. I feel a little gross. I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit when I said that.
No, just make sure cowbell girl is
Yeah,
that's
cowbell
that
girl.
cowbell
Yes,
girl.
yes. There we go. I feel better now.
So yeah, we'll have to we'll see what's in Pettycam. Maybe we can get you like a industry standard cowbell.
Yeah,
You
sorry,
remind us
sorry,
some.
Steve. I only have my AT Banter branded one, and it's a.
It worked. Hey, listen, it worked. Well, or maybe we might just have to. Maybe we just have to make Bites Bullet and just go digital. I just have to like do a canned version of the cowbell. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get Ryan to sample it.
Well, then we wouldn't be able to make snide comments about it when it goes wrong.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I'm
Actually,
gonna,
that's true.
It takes away comedic possibility.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna, I'm gonna rehearse.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right.
That will
Well,
be
we'll
my
hold you to that.
okay. I expect to have a better strike next show. So
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it's just all about what you're hitting it with.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna sample some stuff out. We're gonna work
Okay.
on this. Yeah.
Okay. Great. We all have homework.
Yes. Have faith, because I don't.
There you go. They can also drop signal if they so desire at cowbell at atmentor.com. See, I feel like that was better. That was good. You're already improving.
Okay. Well, look at that. Check it out.
Yeah. So so a little, a couple weeks of work, homework, and we'll be golden.
Cowbell prodigy.
Yeah. Steve, where else can people find us if they are so desired?
Social feeds. We've got the Instagrams and the Facebooks.
Yep.
And what's that other one? Mastodon?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Mouse. Yeah, sure. Mastodon.
Does anybody use Mastodon?
I don't know. It was a thing, or maybe it was a thing for a while. And it's everyone's so fickle. Everyone's on the TikTok loop, apparently.
Yeah, except me.
Except me.
No, actually, I'm not. I know.
Yeah, my daughter saw me doom scrolling on Instagram one day, and she said, "Dad, you should get TikTok. The videos are way longer, and there's so much more of them." It's like, God, that's the last thing I need.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's I'm becoming protective of the brain cells that I have left. So,
All two.
Sorry, what?
All two of them.
We didn't have our episodic dig, so that's good. We got that in just before the end of the show.
There we go.
All right. Well, that is going to about do it for us this week. Big thanks, of course, to Tom for joining us, and we will see everybody next time.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions, as well as physical access solutions and augmentative communication aids across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com, or if you're in the Vancouver Lower Mainland, visit our storefront at number 106 828 West 8th Avenue in Vancouver. That's one block off Broadway at Willow. You can reach us by phone toll-free at 1-844-795-8324, or by email at sales@canastech.com.